So welcome guys to this very first video on my new channel Lethmyr. This will be a critical mass wizard guide for 1.9.7 or above, 1.0.8 most likely too. The itemization patch will obviously change things, so I will redo the guide then, but for now it's okay. I will quickly go over the skills, then show the items you want to have, explain the breakpoints and stuff, and do some tips for gameplay and stuff. So basically you want to use these skills. Energy Twister was Wicked Wind. Teleport, you can switch that out, but Teleport is very useful. Diamond Skin was Crystal Shell. Frost Nova, Bone Snap. Explosion, Chain Reaction. And Storm Armor with Shocking Aspect. And the passes of course Critical Mass, Cold Blooded and Evocation. You can switch Evocation out. You can use whatever you want. Blur if you can't survive hits very well. Unstable Anomaly if you tend to die to maniacs and stuff. Glass Cannon if you need extra damage. I won't recommend this though. Or Illusionist, I don't know what you want. Some use Firestorm if they go for Meteor with Molten Impact. Very good for very high MP, like MP 8 to 10, if you wanna kill trash mods pretty quickly. But I'll go for Evocation in this case. So this guide works, this build works that way that your Energy Twisters, which won't move because of that rune, hit the enemies with a certain amount of time, per second, and each time they crit, they have a chance to reset all your cooldowns by 1 second, which will be about Diamond Skin and Frost Nova, and your Teleport of course. But resetting your Frost Nova allows you to perma-freeze the enemies, and resetting your Diamond Skin allows you to not take any damage at all. And the Explosion and the Storm Armor are your main DPS, and your Teleport gets you through things like Waller and stuff, or with that you move around. So the ticks of your Energy Twister rely on your crit chance and attack speed, but I will come back to that later. Generally, is the more crit and attack speed the better, but there are certain breakpoints for the attack speed you want to hit. But well, I will get to that later. My wizard is currently not geared, but I think I can explain it anyways. So Storm Armor, you can switch that out to Energy Armor, or Prismatic Armor or Pinpoint Barrier, if you can't survive hits very well. I recommend though getting enough defense to use Storm Armor Shocking Aspect, because that will amplify your damage by around 60 to 70%, which is a lot. You can use diamond shards for your Diamond Skin, but you will die a lot faster because you only absorb half of the damage. Yeah, Chain Reaction is pretty much the best rune. You can use that rune for Storm, for Frost Nova if you have problems freezing enemies, but if you can't freeze 5 enemies, then you won't be able to freeze 3 enemies or even single targets, so I don't really... It's a buff of DPS's curve, but you don't really need it. The 15% damage is generally more. So alternatives are Meteor with Molten Impact, of course. Then you want to use Firestorm for 10% more damage. The Meteor does a lot of damage, but uses 50 arcane power, so you can only cast 2 of them. And if you use a source or some arcane power on your gear, you can maybe cast 3. That means you need to have a lot of arcane power regeneration to probably use them. Another opportunity is slow time, with these two runes. The first one amplifies your damage by 20%, and for all the people that are inside of the bubble, so you can use it in team fights versus mob bosses and stuff, or you increase your attack speed by 10%. I don't recommend that one though, because you want to hit your breakpoints without that one, and 20% more damage is better than 10% attack speed. So I can use that. The gear, I'll go on the auction house for that one. But your follower will be the scoundrel, and you want to use this skills. So you want to have 3 crit. You want to have him to shoot 3 bolts instead of 1. You want him to slow stuff. That you can decide for your own, if you want to blind or want him to survive. You want a certain weapon for the scoundrel, which I will show you. There's a weapon called Doriza Dukayon, which has a chance to freeze on hit. This can go from 5% to I think 15. These are pretty expensive. I got one with 12% or something. It's really helpful to freeze over bosses or elites or stuff. And on your scoundrel warhound, you want to have very high vitality and attack speed. Even if you get crit or high dex and stuff, he won't do any damage. But if you get attack speed, he won't freeze a lot more, and vitality makes him survive a lot longer. So your weapons will be Jantodos, 2 set. You want to have both. The weapon can roll 1 stat. It always has plus attacks per second. It always has 9 or 10 arcane power and crit. It always has int. So the only stat you want to have in that one is the socket. And as high DPS as possible. I won't recommend though spending more than 50 to 70 million on that weapon, because after that the damage won't increase. If you go for 200, it's only 20 DPS more. So you can go for 50, you will be above 1000. The most important thing is that you look at the attacks per second, and this should be as high as possible. You can go for 1.23. I recommend though going for 1.24 at least. This will save you a lot of gold later on. So this is a pretty good weapon, 50 million, 0.25 attacks per second, and over 1000 DPS. So I would go for that one. Then the source will be most likely more expensive. You want to have arcane on crit, and this has to be at least 9. You want to have 18 plus. So if your main hand got 9, you want to have 9. If your main hand got 10, you can go for 8. And of course you want to have as much average damage as possible. I'll go for maximum of 200 million. After that, the average damage won't increase. Another very important aspect is attack speed. 8 is fine. If you can get 9 for not really that much of gold, I would go for it, because having 8 or 9 attack speed on a single item is very important. So this got 8. If you don't have that much to spend on it, you can go for less average damage. I would say around 180 to 200 minimum. And look for that APOC. Stuff like Arcane, Orb, or Blizzard, or Media isn't that important. If you got Media, it's fine, because the reduced cost will help you later on higher monster power if you play with Media, but it's not very important. So if you got that, you want to look at the breakpoints. So I've got that one here. These are the exact breakpoints for the ticks per second for your attack speed. So if you got the Chantodos, you have around 1.65, 1.64, 1.65 attacks per second base. If you got your Source, you have 8 to 9 attacks per second increased. So it's around there. You wanna at least hit this breakpoint 2.5, and in most cases you want on 2.73 for 36 ticks per second. So to hit that value with 1.64 base, you need at least 67% attack speed. You can get that on your helmet, for example Map of Twilight, on your chest, the Tyroshas, your belt, the Witching Hour, your braces, Lacunis, your swords, which will be Chantodos, your rings, your gloves, your pants, okay, in that case inners. So if you want to hit that attack speed value, you need 9 attack speed on 3 pieces, I think, and the rest 8. Yeah, so you need 3 pieces with 9 attack speed and another 5 with 8 attack speed. So your helm will be Mampo or Andaris, then your chest will be Tyroshas, that will be 2, Witching Hour 3, gloves 4, amulet 5, braces 6, and your swords 7. Now you need one more piece that can be inners pants, but then you've got the problem that you won't have enough life on hit, because life on hit is very important. Or you get it on one of your rings. You can go for Unity, because of it got life on hit, but I don't really know how expensive attack speed is. So we at least 25 million. If you want to get 8 attack speed, it will be a lot more expensive, like 180. But if you get more pieces with 9 attack speed, you can sacrifice. Then get like 7 attack speed, 6, but it's still very expensive. A must ring, I would say, is Dunimasses with crit plus the boots. The ring is not that expensive if you get 3 crit. If you want at least 4.5, it's 30 million. And with the boots you will have 130 int set bonus, which is really high DPS, it's around 10k. And the ring got nice stats, got crit damage, which is a lot of damage for a same wizard. It's got all resist int and can roll another 2 stats. So Zunimasa's ring and boots are pretty good. If you don't want to go for Blackthorns, have pants, which are one of the best pants for a CM wizard. And this one, because you can get very high vitality on it for a very cheap price. So you can have 290 vitality, 300 life on hit, 10% life for 2 million, which is nothing. If you lower the vitality, you can even get some all resist on it or whatever you want. It's still not that expensive, so it's a very good chest because of the life on hit. Red pants, I mean. But the problem is it will be a lot harder to hit the 2.73 breakpoint. So if you go for inners, you want to have vitality, because if you go for inners you will have vitality problems. If you go for pretty high vitality rolls, like 70 or so, it's more expensive than Blackthorns, but you will hit the breakpoint for sure. But then you need, except for the Unity, life and hit on another piece of gear. It will be a ring or your amulet. In my case, my amulet rolled 280 life on hit. I craft that, so I don't really need it. Blackthorn's pants to reach around 600 to 700 life on hit, which you will need to survive on Inferno. So I got Ice Climbers. Ice Climbers are good boots. The DPS is lower than Zunimasa's, but you've got your aura resist, you've got percent life, and you can get extremely high intelligence and vitality on them. And you won't have problems with movement speed because Inner's pants have movement speed and Lacunis will, so you will still hit the cap. As you can see, good ice climbers are not that expensive, so you can compensate a bit of the life that you lose through Lethmyr's pets by using ice climbers. So you can do whatever you want, but then you need to see where to get the 9 attack speed. You need it on 3 pieces. I would suggest Lacunis, gloves, and inners. On these 3 pieces it's not that expensive. Tarasha chest is very expensive with 9 attack speed. It's more than double compared to 8 attack speed, and Mampo the same. If you want to have Mampo with crit, at least 4%, and some intelligence, will pay at least 400 million. This is with 8 attack speed 8. This is 9. This will probably be bought very fast. But the next with 9 attack speed is here for 550, which is over 100 million more. So if you go for 8 attack speed on your map, you will save a lot of gold. Same with the chest and your sauce. Lacunis with 9 attack speed aren't that expensive. With crit and 80 in, you can go for 5 crit for sure. These will be 35 million. You can maybe go for another nice stat there, like these got Dex and Arcane resist, which is not too bad. If you lower the crit chance, you will save a lot of gold. It was 80 million, some gold fine. But that's basically that. Your gloves, you want to have crit. Crit is the second most important stat. The most important is attack speed, then crit, then life on hit, then vitality, then intelligence. So these got 8 attack speed. I still was able to hit the breakpoints with the 8 attack speed there because my mage had 9, my chest had 9, my belt 8, my inners 9, my amulet had no attack speed at all, but I've got one on one of my rings, only 7 or so. My sword had 8, so I hit the breakpoint exactly 2.73. And you need to calculate your attacks per second. If you get the Chantolos with 0.25 attacks per second, you need 1% attack speed less on your gear, so you need 66 instead of 67. You need to calculate this. If you're on low budget, I'd suggest going for ice climbers, because if you go for blackthorns, your survivability will be a lot higher, but you lose a breakpoint because you can't really pay the rings. You need attack speed on 1 ring, and if you go for Zunimasa's, the first Zunimasa's was crit and attack speed will be at 900 million, so you can't pay that. It had only 7%. So first one with 8 is 1.3 billion. So you can't forget that. But if you get Unity with the attack speed, it's expensive too. So I would suggest go with Inners, because Inners is pretty cheap. and Ice Climbers to compensate the survivability. You want to hit at least 40k life, otherwise you will die really quickly on Inferno, especially on higher monster power like 7 to 8. You want to have 650 to 700 all resist unbuffed. You want to have 2.73 attack speed, minimum 45 to 50 crit chance, and around 3.5k armor. These stats you want to hit to farm Inferno efficiently. If you're on a low budget, you can go for the 2.5 breakpoint. This is okay too. 33 ticks instead of 36 is okay, but 3 ticks more per second per tornado is a lot in terms of crits. So you want to hit that. Your shoulders, your amulet, your gloves, you want to craft. Don't buy stuff. If it's very cheap to use it before crafting stuff, okay, but don't invest your gold in these 3 items. You want to craft there, because you will save a lot of gold. If you don't have the gold for a Mempo, go for Andarits, but most important for Andarits is that you have a very low percent fire damage. Fire damage will kill you if you use Andarits with high fire damage. So you most likely want to have a socket, because you want a Paragon level or have percent life. And you see, this one got 25%, which is max. The minimum is 5%, so you type, for example, 1 million. Search for the lowest fire damage. Doesn't seem to be anyone here. It was 11. Okay, so 5 million. You have to search for your own. You can't sort for fire damage. So this is 5 million, is 5%. It's only got 8% attack speed with that, but that's okay. You can get on other pieces. But I would search for Andaris with 5 or 6% fire damage and 9% attack speed. So you save a lot of gold in other pieces. So this is 4.7 million, 9 attack speed, 6% fire damage. This would be a good alternative to a Mempo. But you lose all resist and percent life, of course. You can go for a Mempo without of crit, but the 4.5 crit or more you lose will result in very many less cooldown reductions, so it will be a lot harder to perma-freeze enemies. Your shoulder is pretty simple, as high int as possible, as high vitality as possible, and all resist around 60 minimum, 50 to 60. And yeah, that's that about the gear. As a CM wizard, you're pretty free to do whatever you want. You can do overbosses solo, no problem. You can farm MP10, no problem. You can farm on low MP if you just switch to Archon. For Archon, there's nothing important except of movement speed and damage. You have the movement speed because of Innas and Lacunis, or Zunimas and Lacunis. You just put Archon in the improved Archon, of course. You go for Glass Cannon for sure, Galvanizing Ward, and Critical Mass for Archon. Then you want to have Energy Armor with Pinpoint Barrier, because Storm Armor won't do any damage from now on. Diamond Skin is okay, but you want to have damage amplifiers for the rest. So you're familiar with Sparkflint and Magic Weapon with Blood Magic. Blood Magic is very important because you cannot have any lifesteal on your gear. Your Chantotos will have a socket or crit damage if you're on a low budget, but you will never be able to get lifesteal on your gear, so you need that Blood Magic. You will have problems with versus Reflect, but if your defensive stats are quite high, you will survive. So that's that. That was the first guide I made on YouTube. I'm no English native speaker, so I have little problems speaking English. I hope you could understand what I was saying. So If you have questions, put them in the comments. I read through them all. You can also send me private messages on YouTube or add me in Diablo. My battle tag is, I'll put it in the description. So you can post in the comments what video I should do next. I was planning a monk guide or demon hunter guide, maybe some stuff on Barb. I haven't played Barb that much, 16 hours. Wither is my most, over 400. These are around 300, and Witch Doctor I've never played with. I don't like Witch Doctor. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed that video, and enjoy your rest of your day, and goodbye.